All right. Here we go, guys and gals. And boogity, boogity, boogity. Let's go racing, drivers.
Welcome back to the Loose Wheel Show. My name is Andrew Hazlett, and that is Ethan Ignatowski
Why are you talking
alongside.
like that?
What's wrong with that?
That's just not how you talk.
Well, I'm booming into the ears of people listening on their radios or mobile phones because we're online. You don't like my booming radio voice?
No. I don't like much of you the last 5 or so minutes. Andrew, when we got in the studio and California Love by Tupac was playing, he said that it's a word that I can't say over the air for fear of FCC clapback. So, I mean, Andrew just quite honestly doesn't know ball, doesn't know wheel. We know all these things already, but just had to be said because Andrew, quite possibly one of the worst takes I've ever heard.
Well, I'm just not a fan of rap music in general.
It's still one of the worst takes I've ever heard.
And it's not good. But anyway, we're a racing show. What are we to talk about music on a racing show?
I mean, mostly we're a make fun of Andrew Hazlett show.
This guy sometimes. Anyway, going into the racing.
And now for last week's race reviews.
Austin Hill won Xfinity.
Austin Hill Invitational.
As everyone in the world expected. So yeah.
Apart from Sean Brennan, our guest picker.
That's on him.
That is
Free
on
5
him.
points said, nah. And he's talking about how I don't know wheel.
I mean,
Like, you can debate that. You can have the argument for saying, this guy, he doesn't know wheel. But when you go up and it's your turn at the plate and you strike out like Sean did, going 0 points.
he only had 2 plate appearances, though. Really, you know.
Still not very good. I mean, when your competition is hitting home runs, it's gonna be yikes for me. But anyway, moving back to the racing, and into stage 1, you had a lot of different guys leading. It started with pole sitter Zane Smith, which is a surprise. Which shouldn't be as much of a surprise as it is because Front Row Motorsports was very good at qualifying on these. Can't say plate anymore because they took the restrictor plates out. Super Speedway Racing. I still call it plate racing, even though they took that out.
Formerly known as.
Like 8 years ago. Might maybe not be 8 years ago, but still a long time. Then you had a ton of other guys share the lead. You had both RCR cars, Kyle Busch and Austin Dillon. Michael McDowell got in the lead at one point. Chase Briscoe, not Harrison Burton, Josh Berry, and Joey Logano all led for a good multi-groove racing. And then we had some single-groove racing coming to green flag pit stops. And we had our first wreck of the day coming to the pit stops when Brad Keselowski and Kyle Busch got together coming to pit road, and Ryan Blaney, he had nowhere to go. They fell into his lap. So that was kind of Brad Keselowski's no good 2025 season.
It's just continuing.
Is just getting worse. I feel so bad for the guy because he went from a playoff car last year, I do believe, to a car that is outside the top 30 in points, which is monumental in terms of NASCAR. You don't, with the same everything, pretty much, except a crew chief's change, but that still shouldn't take you that far down in the standings. We talked about last week, but regardless, moving forward, RFK Racing's no good day from Talladega continued. And Christopher Bell and Chris Buescher wrecked from the lead, which that's kind of just a bad circumstance there. And then Bubba Wallace and his Boston Hamlin led. before Kyle Larson took the lead late and won stage 1, some good multi-groove racing. Then we had some mixed strategies that led to Anthony Fast Pasta Alfredo leading the race. We had some good multi-groove racing with William Byron took the lead, then Alfredo, and a couple of Trackhouse guys, Suarez and Chastain, Gregson and Joey Logano led, all before green flag pit stops. Speeding police, they broke out with a bit of an outbreak, you could say. 2 Trackhouse cars, Suarez and Shane Van Gisbergen, along with Chase Elliott, sped. And then John Hunter Nemechek spun while leaving pit road. And then you had Hocevar and Logano leading before Bubba Wallace came up and won stage 2. Caution mixed strategies allowed Chase Briscoe to lead. And Ty Gibbs led. And then we had some single car racing before Joey Logano took the lead. And then we had green flag pit stops. Speeding police busted 2 drivers again, Barry and Kyle Busch. And then you had this quote-unquote gridlock of 2 Fords out front, kind of just pacing the field at the pace they wanted to, of Cindric and Preece. Before Cindric wins, Preece was disqualified anyway. So I would give this race a 7 out of 10. I want to talk.
A lot of people disagree with you.
Here, I'll get into that later, but I want to give out some awards first. And my Arca Breaks moment of the week is going to be for the Xfinity Series race, going to Leland Honeyman Jr. for on the choose V. He was looking low. At the last minute, decided to go high and spun his race car. That's no good. And I'm going to give the Chicken Award to Joey Logano for being kind of standoffish. I don't know if that's the right word, but because after stage 2, where Bubba Wallace won, Cindric was trying to help his line. That's where Bubba Wallace was in. Well, Joey Logano was in the other line. So that frustrated Logano. It's like, why are you helping a Toyota instead of not helping him? Quite frankly, the answer is to have the best chance for the 2 car to win stage 2. That's how it's going to work. And then post-race, Logano was clearly irritated that Cindric had won. He didn't really congratulate him ever. And funny enough, Chipper Jones, the former Atlanta Brave, decided to go at him on Twitter. And quite frankly, yeah, Chipper Jones brought out some great points against him.
No NASCAR analyst Chipper Jones.
So at the end of the day, when Chipper Jones is roasting you about NASCAR, I feel like that's got to be a Chicken Award. So Joey Logano,
no stranger to the award, I believe.
No, he hasn't won it since I started keeping track in episode 7, which is now 11 episodes ago. But I'm pretty sure he's won it before. So Joey Logano, you are the Chicken Award winner this week. But I want to talk about something that a lot of people are frustrated about, Ethan, is that, oh yeah, they're saying the racing wasn't that good. Because yes and no, they're right. Stage 1 and stage 2 were probably a 9 or a 10 out of 10. Very good racing. Stage 3 was kind of more like a 5, 6 out of 10. Still very good. A little bit better than average. Still solid at the end of the day. And people are overreacting like this is a terrible race. And I don't think it is because of the aforementioned stage 1 and stage 2. What people are, I think, have biases that the expectations for Talladega and Daytona with the plate racing is they expect to see exciting racing with big wrecks and close finishes. And I think everyone just saw stage 3 and said, oh man, I didn't like the way that race ended. And said, There wasn't any big wrecks. Really wasn't any drama. And, this isn't a good race. But when you're forgetting the first two stages had a lot of drama, had a lot of interesting things happening. There wasn't...
That might be true, Andrew, but the end of the race, rightfully so, gets more attention, and how the race ends, how exciting the later stage of the race is. You can't blame fans for taking that and weighing that more than the previous two stages, because
I agree.
That's the end. That's the most exciting part in a lot of fans' eyes.
But the end isn't the end-all be-all of a race. A race is at Talladega 500 miles.
I agree. But at the end of it all, what matters? The first 400 or whatever miles, or the end? Because the end is where the winner's decided. It's where the big bucks are made. It's where it's what people care about the most. And I think that you often, compared to what I see the general public rating races, tend to inflate the scores of races no matter what compared to what I see elsewhere.
That might be a bit true. It's not always the case. I think you and I would both agree. Sometimes I'm more negative than the public, but I do think the public isn't as reviewing the races fairly as they should, because, like I said, the ending was average, so that's a 5, and the initial stuff was 10 or 9. So when you weigh that out, that probably comes out to 7. I just think the public just decided to forget what happened in the first two stages. And here's the other thing, Ethan, that I want to talk about it. Talladega, I feel like Talladega 7 is disappointing at the end of the day. I'm still disappointed that this race was only a 7. I don't like how the race ended at the end of the day in terms of that. Was it interesting? Yes. But I don't like what happened going into it. I'm not just saying that the race was bad. I just didn't like it. I think the race was still a good race. I thought fans were hating on the race too hard. But I think the expectation of Talladega and the result wasn't what a lot of people thought, was disappointing. And that's why people were going overly negative on the good race poll, which I disagree. But I will say that NASCAR always needs to keep working on the package. Elton Sawyer said, "We liked what we saw. We're not going to change anything." Well, come on, Elton Sawyer. If you're sitting in complacency, that means you're falling behind. And no matter what you do, as Ethan sits on his phone right now.
Why are you commentating on me?
I'm going to drive in a point right here, so I want to make sure I have your attention. If you sit and do nothing, that means you're losing. And that's what NASCAR is doing right now. If they're not going to make any changes, because there's always something to fix. There's always something to get better. No matter in what you're doing in life, you can always be better. That's the way it is. And NASCAR, by sitting on their hands, isn't doing. They need to do more.
Sounds like NASCAR should get the chicken award.
No, it wasn't a bad. The package right now isn't bad.
I mean, it's not promoting good racing, so what does that make it then? You know what I mean?
If you go back before these last 4 races, we had a great run to start off the year. All the first 5 races, or 6 races rather, were all rated very, very highly by fans. We weren't having this conversation 5 weeks ago. We weren't. So what we can learn from the bad and apply it so that we can have the better things going forward. I saw on Twitter that someone suggested, I think maybe a fairly simple solution is not have curved rear bumpers. I think that would apply better to pushing, not seeing as many wrecks. And I don't know how it would change the aero, but might change the aero. There's a lot of things that NASCAR can try. I think that the teams are and the series both are unwilling to try it. The teams want to save money, and the series is too scared, I think, to try some of these things like more horsepower, because that's something the fans have been clamoring for years and years and years and years.
And we're gonna talk about this later, so I don't want to get too into it now. But like NASCAR has opportunities to test different packages at other events with more horsepower, and they just choose not to.
I think we're gonna. This is kind of.
Are we gonna talk about that right now?
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that right now.
And now for the news.
Because NASCAR revealed its format for the 2025 All-Star Race at North Wilkesboro, and boy, this is. I'm just gonna say it. It's a terrible format. You have the Open, which is traditionally led up to the All-Star Race. Two different things. The Open is a 100-lap event. Only one overtime attempt is allowed, and a competition break on and around lap 40. And the top two finishers and fan vote winner will advance. That's fairly standard for an All-Star Open. I don't hate that at all. I hate that a little bit. I don't like the only one overtime attempt. Either just say regular, no overtime, or the race must finish under green. I feel like we're just kind of, we don't know what we're doing. We're going to try something so it can just be new. It's like, no, it's like pick a direction to go and commit to it fully, And then the competition break, I just don't like planned cautions, whether that be stages or fun flags or what we'll see later, because this is going to get good. And then the heat races. For whatever reason, they just want to get rid of qualifying and have heat races. I don't know why we're doing this. I genuinely don't know why. Like we have this
just
cool.
to infuriate us.
Like they're probably say, "Oh, it's more racing." Well, then if you want more racing, just make the race longer. That's you like. We have this cool qualifying where you go. You have your out lap, and then your first lap after that, and the second lap you pit, and the third lap you come back out. That's something cool. It involves your pit crew as a way to qualify. That's something cool. And NASCAR decides, we'll just throw it out. We'll have heat races. That qualifying, it won't matter. Well, then what's the point of qualifying? Might just do random draw based off of practice times. Anyway, it gets worse in these heat races are 60-lap events and also one overtime attempt if needed. Again, same thing as the Open. Race. 250 laps, increase of 50 laps from the previous year. Endless overtime attempts. Why are we changing the things from race to race? Why can't we have consistency? Like, I'd rather it be the only one overtime attempt in everything than have changing. I said here earlier, I don't like the one overtime attempt. Not a fan. But I'd rather have consistency than change. And then we have a competition break at or around lap 100. That's really riveting to me. As I mentioned earlier.
What is the point of that?
Oh, so the field can get caught up again for fun. That's not how racing is.
That's not how it works.
At this point,
if you want them to get caught up to each other, make a better package.
Or actually, like,
that's an F1 fan saying.
I know. In the past, what they did was a 40-30-20 lap race. At least we had consistent. We know what we're doing, but at or around lap 100, that just doesn't feel like anything. That just doesn't feel like a true system, And what's even worse is an optional promoter's caution, which You might be wondering, what's this? It must be executed prior to lap 220. If the promoter's caution has not been utilized and a caution occurs after lap 200, the optional caution will be not available. So someone I'm guessing the SMI Corporation who runs the race gets to decide when this caution's gonna come out. And the fact it's just so infuriating that, oh yeah, we're just gonna throw some gimmicks out there. They aren't even good gimmicks. Like when I remember in the past where NASCAR, I think this was the early 2010s, they would do some inversions mid-race. At least those were good gimmicks. What we have here is just, let's just have the racing be close. No, with the inversions, what they did was, okay, the field would be where start after in their qualifying positions, wherever they'd finish in the first break, they'd flip the field, and the results after stage 2, they'd add your combined finishes, and whoever had the lowest combined finishes would start first for the next stage, and so on and so forth. At least that meant, okay, this is something how we can get interesting racing without feeling too gimmicky, but it works. The cautions, you're just grouping everyone back together, and the fastest car is going to take off again. That's how it's going to be. I already know how it's going to be before the race is going to happen.
Yeah.
That's saying something. So, but NASCAR before this is okay, teams, what we're going to do for this race is we're going to have the package be whatever you guys want to do. We're open to anything. And teams said, no, let's do the same thing. It keeps costs down. You're in a sport that is you got to spend money. Let's just cut costs down. This is the perfect time to try something new. I appreciate NASCAR for letting the teams, the attempt there. There was an attempt there from NASCAR. But I wish NASCAR would push the team, say, oh, you got to come up with something different. And so the same old, because we know what we have. If we're not going to try new things, then what's the point of having an all-star race? There is none. So it's a group. I can't say the exact phrase I want to. A group cluster. Let's call it at that. A group cluster where no one has the authority to put anything good in place, or everything's kind of just pansying to the other people, what do you want? What do you want? Where no one wants to say what they really want, except for the teams who want nothing. I want the sport to grow, and staying the same is not going to grow. You're just, I don't know, Ethan. I don't know if you have any thoughts about this.
No, not really. I agree with you for the most part. I think it's a chance to do something really cool, and they're just not taking it, which doesn't surprise me in the slightest.
I remember in 2019 where I didn't like the look of it, but NASCAR ran nostrils on the cars in the All-Star race. I said, oh man, this is bad. They raced actually rather fine, but optically it was terrible. But the teams are just saying, no.
I'd rather have an ugly looking car that races well.
Yeah, I agree.
A good looking car that can't do anything.
Speaking of NASCAR leadership, this isn't on the document, but NASCAR CEO Steve Phelps has been rumored to go over to the PGA Tour as their CEO, which doesn't make sense to me as someone who does pay attention to golf. First of all, I don't think Steve Phelps is leaving after his promotion to commissioner. I just don't see it after We talked about this on the podcast or show rather this earlier this season. How he was promoted and how this is going to possibly change the sport, but I just don't see him leaving that position. I don't know. I think I don't know why the PGA is trying to get him. I know I don't think he's very well liked over there, and I try to keep up with golf to the best of my ability. I don't know the fan discourse as well, but I wouldn't like. I don't as a golf fan, a fairly somewhere between a casual and a diehard golf fan. I don't think that would be a right move. And as a diehard NASCAR fan, that wouldn't be the right move for anyone. So we'll see if that happens. And Garage 66 set for the Texas Cup race with Chad Fincham. So yeah, that's cool, I guess. Always good to see open teams. We talked about it on the show last week, Jesse Love in the 62 car. So we got 2 open cars. And this season, Ethan, and we've had an open car race at every race so far except Las Vegas. And this includes the Clash, where we had 3 open cars. Daytona 500 had trying to do math here, which is always risky. I think wound up being 8 cars. 3 for Atlanta, 1 for Coda, 1 for Phoenix, none for Las Vegas, 1 for Homestead, 2 for Martinsville, 2 for Darlington, 3 for Bristol, 3 for Darlington, 2 for Texas, and right now for Kansas we have none. All-Star race, none, and then the Charlotte 600 we have 3, kind of just previewing what could be. But yeah, I think the open car is trying to be there as good for the sport, you know. More cars are always fun. I'd love to see it where NASCAR would send cars home every week. That would be fun. I don't think it will ever happen anytime soon under this format, but we'll see. Ethan,
it's cool to see there be new drivers every week, pretty much.
It's Formula One time. What you got for me?
Got some news. Starting off with Ferrari planning to start rolling in some more upgrades at Imola, which, if you look at the calendar, is the race after next, with Miami being this week, and then 1 week break, and then teams will be in Italy at the Circuit di Enzo. It has a long name, Imola's official name. But anyway, they will be bringing in some upgrades focused on trying to get some downforce on the car, something that the team has been lacking with on the rear end, causing some instability, and basically just it's one of the reasons why Lewis has had such a rough time hopping over to Ferrari, braking in low speed corners where you need to be confident. He just doesn't have it with the instability of the car. So hopefully these upgrades can help him get back up to speed. And then also soon enough, the Ferrari anyway believes, according to motorsport.com, and Charles Leclerc specifically believes that the FIA's clampdown on the front wing flexibility will basically result in Ferrari becoming closer to some of the front teams in McLaren and Mercedes. I'm going to have to push back against that. Not saying that I know more than Charles Leclerc, but McLaren and Mercedes have shown time and time again that their front wings are perfectly legal. So I don't think that either of those teams are going to have to make changes that would result in them slipping timage-wise. But those upgrades for Ferrari will be coming, and if anything with the front wings does come into play, then we'll find out in Barcelona, which is, I think, 2 weeks after Imola, because Monaco is in between. But that's that. And then, Andrew, if you see the title for our next segment, Mohammed Ben Sulayem to do something good for once. Potentially, anyway. Because, Andrew, we are well aware of the swearing rules. We have talked about the swearing rules. We have gone on and on about how the swearing rules don't make sense. But MBS, he's considering improvements. And I have to say that these actually are improvements. Essentially, with the World Rally Championship, which is also controlled by the FIA, there are, I believe they're calling them, let me see. They're calling them like swearing zones and like non-swearing zones or something like that, where there are instances where the drivers can speak freely without having to worry about fines and such from the FIA, and then other instances where you need to be more professional, let's say. And I think that that's a fair compromise.
Yeah.
I still think that, the drivers should be able to say what they want, when they want, and express how they feel. But I think that this is a fair compromise. And so MBS said on Instagram that he is considering making changes to Appendix B of the ruling. And it's not like a huge thing that like impacts the racing or anything, but it impacts how the drivers interact with journalists and therefore fans through the media. I mean, like we see like Max Verstappen half the time just says like, "Oh, I can't say what I want to say." So hopefully this can change that. I don't know exactly how it would work or what the changes exactly would be. I don't think that MBS announced any of that, but something happening, potentially. And then the last bit of Formula One news I have is just very quickly, I want to say that Formula One announced a partnership with PwC, which is PricewaterhouseCoopers, who will provide strategic consulting to Formula One over the course of a multi-year contract. Autosport is reporting that in 2022 they made $50.3 billion in global revenue.
That's a lot of money.
So fair to say they know how to make money, Andrew.
They should donate $1 billion to the Loose Wheels show.
Yeah, maybe we should get sponsored by the nice people over at PricewaterhouseCoopers. So maybe they can help us with some strategic consulting. But F1 just continuing their partnerships with big brands to try to grow the sport. So obviously it seems that this is kind of a more so media helping out type deal, and they'll be able to just capitalize on F1's growing popularity and try to grow it even more. F1 released a statement about it. It's far from the most exciting thing in the world. If you guys want to go track it down and find it, it is on F1's website.
Into the previews now. And after the previews and picks, I've got an interesting segment for you, Ethan, that you don't know about.
I'm scared.
You're going to have some... it's more... You should be scared for me than yourself.
And now for next week's race previews.
Barber, IndyCar going to Barber. Let's hope Georgina's the mannequin doesn't fall on the track again at Barber like it did last time.
You want to explain that?
Well, so at Barber, they have a lot of interesting statues. like a giant spider, some sort of animal fishing in a pond. I think it's like a grizzly bear or something. I don't know. A lot of weird things like that. One of the weird things is there's a mannequin that hangs from a bridge. Her name is Georgina. And during the race last year, she fell, and Luca Giotto hit her and chopped her arm off.
That doesn't seem safe for anyone.
No. And then
I'm surprised that that's even allowed.
And then later, during a caution for something else, the AMR safety team picked her up, and then she is. Fast forward a year later, she is still now hanging from the bridge once again. Hopefully she doesn't fall this time. Let's hope the zip ties work or whatever they use to keep her up there.
The fact that there's something hanging over the track, I'm sorry. I can't support that no matter how silly it is. That is something horrible waiting to happen.
Regardless, hopefully it's more off the racetrack and more hanging. If it falls, it'll fall in the grass this time. Anyway, your 5, because there's no drivers changing. Will Power, 2-time winner. Joseph Newgarden, 3-time winner there. Scott McLaughlin, 2-time winner there, plus in a virtual iRace because...
And McLaughlin's won the last 2 races
yes.
there, which I think is something important that you should say.
Yeah,
I said it for you because you weren't going to say it.
That is right. I do know. And then Alex Palou and Pato O'Ward. Your NXT drivers changing rides. The 9 for Ganassi, Bryce Aaron. And then the 24 for HMD is Evagoras Papasavas. Surprised they got that on only 2 tries. And Max Taylor in the 18 for HMD as well. Texas. Cup Series, you have Jesse Love in the 62, Chad Fincham in the 66, as I mentioned. The 5, I'll go with Denny Hamlin, 3-time winner there. Kyle Busch, 4-time winner there. This could be a very... Kyle Busch is a guy who's on a losing streak. It's very well known. He was on a losing streak way back there in 2020. I think it was 2020 where he was on that big losing streak. And I also think that was the 3-day race. Actually, it was a 4-day race where the rain decided to rain.
The rain decided to rain. Wow, well said, Andrew. You should do a radio show or something.
Sounds like I do. Anyway, also, Joey Logano as one-time winner there. Chase Elliott, most recent winner there. And Kyle Larson. Honorable mentions, Austin Dillon, Tyler Reddick, and William Byron, who've also won there as well. I just left off those 3 drivers. Austin Dillon, never quite the fastest guy on the racetrack. Tyler Reddick, when he won that race, I do believe it was with RCR, now with 2311. That's 2 different teams, if you couldn't tell. And I don't think 2311's ever had the speed. And William Byron, I think I just prefer Logano and Larson and Elliott to him there compared to Byron. That's just my personal preference. And then Xfinity, your drivers changing. Nick Lights in the 07 for SS Greenlight. Corey Day in the 17 for Hendrick. Riley Herbst in the 19 for your Gibbs. For Jordan Anderson, Catherine Legg. For your Joey Gase entries, 35, Joey Gase, 53, Mason Maggio. Mason Massey in the 45 for Alpha Prime. Leland Honeyman Jr. in the Cope, 70. Dawson Cram and the Mike Harmon, 71. And in the 2, DGM Racing, 91. Josh Bilicki, 92. CJ McLaughlin. Truck Series, Brandon Jones in the 1 for Tricon. And the Rayum Brothers, 2 is Cody Dennison, and the 22 for the same team, Josh Rayum. Spires All-Star entries, 07 Nick Sanchez, and 7 is Carson Hosfart. The 20 car for Youngs is Stephen Parsons. The 44 for Nice is Bailey Curry, and the 66 for Thor Sport is Luke Fenhouse. Ethan, you want to talk about Miami for us?
Yes, sprint weekend
Yay!
in Miami. Was that a sarcastic yay, Andrew, or are you turning
Very.
around to them?
Very sarcastic.
What?
Not a sprint race guy.
Yeah.
Look,
Who
if
is?
you want to just do a sprint race, let me introduce this concept to you, Ethan. Just make the races longer.
No, that's not what they want to do, though.
I know it's not what they want to do, but that's
If
my
they want to
solution.
if they want to make the sprint races like actually mean something, maybe go back to how it sets the grid. But then that just takes away from the actual race because everyone's already made their moves then. There is no point in sprint racing in Formula One. Get rid of it. But it won't happen. It's here to stay, and it's only going to be at more races. So we have that to look forward to in the future. But yeah, like I said, sprint weekend, no F2, no F3. Yes, F1 Academy. So there is still a support category there. That's that, though. Do you want me to give 5 people, Andrew, like you do? You want me to start doing that?
You can if you want.
You have Lando Norris, who won there last year. You have Oscar Piastri, who drives the fastest car on the grid with Lando Norris, and he's on a winning streak. You have Max Verstappen, who wins a lot of races. You have George Russell, who's been on the podium.
Didn't he win the inaugural race, Max?
Max, probably. It's Max Verstappen. You have George Russell, who's been on the podium a lot this year. And then those are really the only 4 that have a shot because Kimi he's not like been slow or anything, but he just hasn't had the highs.
He's
of
been a
George.
rookie.
He's been a rookie. He's been a very impressive rookie, but he's still been a rookie. And then the Ferrari is
A Ferrari.
not a good race car right now. And then Yuki Tsunoda is a Red Bull second driver. So those are my 4, Andrew. Actually, Alex Albon, you're my 5th pick. You want to know why? Because I said so.
If you're gonna do the 5s, at least have it pre-planned in the future. Say, oh, this guy's won twice, or whatever.
There's been like 2 races there.
I thought there's been 3. I don't know.
Still.
Anyway, into pick points.
And now for next week's race picks.
F1 Sprint. Morgan, the guest picker this week.
Well, what happened last week, Andrew? Come on.
I'll tell you. I gained, for the 2nd week in a row, I gained 1 point on Ethan.
Sorry, I'm interrupting you to go back to the previous segment. Max has won there 2 times in 2022 and 2023, and Lando Norris has won there once in 2024. You happy now?
Very. Anyway, how I got my 1 point, I picked Austin Hill. Ethan picked Austin Hill. Guess Sean picked
Not
Justin
a good
Allgaier.
debut. Not a good debut, Sean. I was rooting for you, man. I wanted you to do well. We were planning this for weeks. It just didn't go well.
And then for
Justin
the
Allgaier
Cup,
was his pick.
Yeah, I thought I said that. This is here where I gained 1 point because I took the 1 point from Cup Series. It's Bubba Wallace beat Kyle Busch and Ryan Blaney. Busch and Blaney were involved in a wreck, so after I saw it, I'm like, yeah, I'm feeling good, boys. I think I'm gonna get 1 point as long as he passes inspection. We're good, and that's what happened. Ryan Preece and Joey Logano did not.
Yeah.
Fun fact for you. So, current week sprint race. All 3 of us have 3 different picks. Guess Morgan going with Lando Norris. I'm going with Max Verstappen because he always is good at sprints, I think. I don't know. And then
I'm going with Oscar Piastri because he also does well at sprints. And like I said 3 minutes ago, he is very much so on a heater.
Yeah.
And I also have him in the main race for the same reason.
I do
as
too.
do you.
Morgan has Lando Norris.
Which I don't hate. Like, he's got to turn it around at some point. Like, he is going to get another win this season. He's going to get multiple wins this season.
It would be funny if he didn't.
It would be really funny for you if he didn't. Like, even if he doesn't win the championship this year, he's going to turn around his current run of form. So I don't hate it, especially at a track where he's done it before, a track that he'll probably be going in with confidence. But it's very hard to bet against Oscar Piastri right now.
We have Lando Norris P2,
Yeah.
Oscar P3, or P2 for the guest. So kind of
Yeah, we both have
the
Max.
same boat. And Max
the
P3.
Red Bull's looking a lot better right now, or at least it did after. We're going into Miami thinking it's a lot better because of how it did in Saudi Arabia. Granted, a very different track. But
they're both street circuits.
They are both street circuits, so maybe that counts for something. So because of that, I do have Max in third, and I think you're following the same line of reasoning. Or maybe you're just saying it's Max Verstappen.
Yeah, I was thinking Max Verstappen in a semi-decent Red Bull car. He'll drag it to third. I guess going with George Russell. So if the trends continue with George Russell getting picked, he'll finish off the podium. Because every time we haven't picked him this year to finish on the podium, the three of us, he's finished on the podium, and vice versa.
Yeah.
When I said off.
Yeah, he's finished on. Yeah.
You get the point. Indy Next Barber, Dennis Hauger for both of us.
He is a very good racing driver. He's kind of, I don't want to say that he doesn't have competition in Indy Next because that's a little too much, but he should be winning a lot of races this year.
He's in a very odd scenario in his career because it's kind of like he's going to a country and tracks for the first time in being in the series, but he
just has the raw talent.
He's also probably arguably way better than everyone else in the field. Yeah. But you can't put him in IndyCar because he's still he's not good enough for that.
Yeah.
So it's like, where do you put him?
This is a guy who I'm going to take the time to say this because we have time. Mm-hmm. He's had a very weird career. Like back when he was in F4, he won Italian F4. He finished second in German F4. He won Formula 3 in his second season. His rookie year didn't go well, but he had a podium. You saw some potential. His second season, he goes out, wins the whole thing. And then he goes to Formula 2, and he has good moments, but it is so much more bad than good. He's making a lot of mistakes. It's just not going well, but he still has the raw talent. So now in Indy Next, if he can kind of refine himself, that'll be huge for his future. I mean, he just turned 22.
Mm-hmm. I guess going with Miles Rowe, solid pick there. Ethan and I continuing on, we like picking the same drivers this week. Scott McLaughlin, and then guess going with Joseph Newgarden. I said it earlier, Penske's done very well at this track as a whole. Even if you look in the past, Simon Pagenaud did really well. Elio did really well. Juan Pablo Montoya did really well. It's just a Penske-dominated track, and why go off that road? I wouldn't. I did. You didn't either. Truck Series Texas, we're all going Carson Hocevar. I was hoping someone else would go Nick Sanchez here because Nick Sanchez is I think possibly very close to being a better pick than Carson Hocevar. Anyway, moving forward.
Trucks or Cups Xfinity. Third time's the charm. It's one of the series, right?
Guess going. We're gonna defer here. Guess going Connor Zilic, obviously talented kid. If you want to go your pick here, Ethan.
I'm going with Justin Allgaier. I believe he's won there in the past. He's finished well there multiple times. So he is my pick. And then Andrew is going with Sam Mayer.
Oh, I was going to introduce my own pick here because...
Well, you were typing or something. Why are you on your phone, Andrew? Huh? You going to call me out earlier on the show for being on my phone?
I've been on my phone for 3-5 seconds, and you've been on your phone for minutes at a time, so I'm not going to let that slide. Sam Mayer, I thought he was very I've kind of had a breakout season last year, and now in this, the Haas car has had a regression. He's going to need a breakout soon. I think, what a better place to start than Texas, a place he won at last year by a smidgy, about this length and size, about an inch or so. That's how much he won by. Moving into Cup Series.
That's a lot. Going into the Cup Series, Denny Hamlin is Morgan's pick for the guests. Andrew, what do we think of that pick?
That's Denny Ham. Wait. Yeah, Denny Hamlin's one at Texas. Yeah, that's a solid pick. He was one of my 5.
I'm going with William Byron. I know for a fact that he has won there before. Unless I'm wrong, then I don't know for a fact that he's won there before. I think he's won there before. I know he's ran well there before at the very least. So I am taking him. And then Andrew, you are taking
Kyle Larson. He's only won at Texas once, but listen to this. In the past 2 times, and the only 2 times Austin Cindric has won, Ethan, Kyle Larson finished it, came in the next week and won. Like, that's a track that suits Kyle Larson, so I might. Might have been my pick regardless, but he'll be very good there.
So we're using some of the William Byron after Denny Hamlin win logic that you hated from me last year.
Yeah.
Okay. The logic worked for me, so.
So we've only got 5 minutes left, but what I was gonna do is we'll save that for later, but.
Well, no, we can do it quick. No,
we can't.
Okay.
We can't.
Well, what was it gonna be?
It was gonna be so in 2020, back when I had a YouTube channel, I released a 21 predictions for the decade. Now that we're halfway through, some of these we might talk about this next week, but some of those takes have aged really well.
Give me one that's aged well and one that's aged bad.
One that's aged horribly. Oh, here. I'm gonna say one that's aged. Well, I guess I got rid of these check marks so I could see what they were. One of them that is aged well is a winner being disqualified in the Cup Series, because that was something that was recently introduced, and a winner was disqualified with Denny Hamlin, I do believe. We're gonna go one that I know it's not gonna happen, but it's not gonna be not the worst one.
Okay.
Johnny Sauter winning a championship in trucks before retiring. He was kind of at the top of his game in around 2018. Truck lifer at that point, I'm like, oh, he's going to retire soon. He's going to go out the bang. And kind of just faded off to obscurity. So, there's more.
When did you make this video?
This was in before the 2020 season.
I mean, Andrew, he was going, just quick looking at his stats. He won in 2016, and then he went 2nd, 4th, 6th, and you thought that he was on the up and up?
Yeah, I guess I did.
Andrew.
You said that like you're extremely disappointed in me.
I mean, hindsight being 2020, yes.
Yeah. Safe to say he's faded back. Well, there's a lot of interesting things there. We'll talk about a lot. Go into further detail of them later.
Yeah.
But it's come to think that there's only one more in-person show here, at least in the Bill Austin Radio studio this semester.
Are we gonna record next Tuesday?
Yeah.
All right.
We don't
I'll
have
stick
nothing
around then, I guess.
We don't have anything better
I have
to do.
no idea when I'm gonna go back home.
ASU baseball doesn't play next Tuesday, I do believe, if I remember correctly. Yeah, they don't, so I'm not gonna be at that. So yeah, that's.
Then
So we'll be here next Tuesday. Shout out finals week.
You have any finals, Andrew?
Not on finals week, but I do have finals.
Yeah.
Because.
Well, I know that we have 2 of the same finals.
Yeah. Because
I had a final earlier today.
All the people at ASU are like, let's not have finals on finals week.
Shout out the professors, man. I love that.
Because they do it to not overwhelm everyone, but it winds up overwhelming everyone.
You get overwhelmed either way, because now all the finals are still the same week. It's just a different week. But hey, I'd rather be done with school earlier, so you're not going to see me complaining, unlike Andrew.
I think it's hilarious, personally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's all. We getting out of here 2 minutes early?
I guess so. Do you have anything else to say, Ethan?
No, not really. Actually, yeah. One of my friends texted me
Oh boy.
something, and I haven't opened it, but he said, bruh, what? There was a San Jose Grand Prix. So I looked it up during the course of the show, and yeah, Champ Car raced in San Jose.
They ran over the railroad tracks in that race
for a few years, from 2005 to 2007, and somehow I never knew that. I don't know how. I don't know why no one decided to tell me that.
I thought you knew about
No,
that.
I had absolutely no idea. I mean, granted, I was
2.
I was a year old when the first race happened, and then yeah, like 3 when probably depending on where it happened in the year, probably 2 years old when 2 when the last race happened. But yeah, I was not aware of the San Jose Grand Prix, so learn something new every day, I suppose.
All right, that's gonna be it for Ethan and I. Episode 17 of the Loose Wheel Show. We'll see you next week. Goodbye.
To me, it looked like he actually lost the wheel.
The wheel for Ross Chastain is still and perfect.
Wheel on the track.
Did you leave the wheel loose?
You picked a fine time to leave me loose, wheel.